Hello, I'm Peter Clote in for Esther Githui Ewart. Welcome to Africa 54. Here's what's coming up.
United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees Filippo Grandi marks World Refugee Day in South Sudan, highlighting the situation of millions of people displaced by war. Hundreds of demonstrators marched in cities across Kenya to protest against plans to introduce additional taxes. And a look at how the U.S. Supreme Court's decision reversing its 1973 ruling legalized abortion is revving up the presidential campaign. All this and much more coming up on today's Africa 54.
Thursday is World Refugee Day, an international day organized every year on June 20th by the United Nations. It's designed to celebrate and honor refugees worldwide. This year's theme is in solidarity with refugees and their specific health needs. The UN High Commissioner for Refugees, Filippo Grandi, is in East Africa and is highlighting the situation of millions of people displaced by war. VOA's UN correspondent Margaret Bashir spoke to him from New York.
Sudan's war has triggered one of the largest displacement crises on the planet, according to the United Nations. It broke out in April 2023 between two rival generals and has pushed internal displacement to nearly 10 million people and driven 2 million more to seek safety in neighboring countries. The UN High Commissioner for Refugees, Filippo Grandi, met some of the displaced this week in Kosti, in the southern part of Sudan.
They're fleeing horrible violence, very severe violations of human rights, but increasingly they're also fleeing deprivation, and in particular food insecurity and in some cases hunger. So you have a multiplication of factors that are all generated clearly by this insane war that doesn't seem to end.
In South Sudan, the UN Refugee Agency is working to assist them. But humanitarian aid is only a short-term solution. Peace is what is needed, he said.
My appeal is really to everybody who has any influence on the parties in this conflict. Push them not towards the battlefield, but to the negotiating table.
Elsewhere in Africa, the effects of the climate crisis are driving displacement, forcing people to move, especially when coupled with conflicts.
And there, what happens is that climate becomes a cause of conflict. It deprives very poor communities living together of basic resources, water, for example. The communities start fighting, and this generates displacement.
Globally, the numbers of displaced people, refugees, and asylum seekers have been increasing over the last 12 years to a staggering 120 million. Ukraine, Syria, and Afghanistan account for just over half of all forcibly displaced persons.
This tragic progression will just continue if at least some of these conflicts are not resolved and the conditions for people to return, which is still the best solution, are not created. This is the big challenge.
Grandi warns that it will be difficult for an increasingly divided world to meet growing global challenges. Margaret Bashir, VOA News, the United Nations.
In observance of World Refugee Day, the Refugee and Forced Displacement Initiative hosted an event celebrating refugee talent and host country leadership to celebrate the many talents that refugees have and to enhance public awareness about their positive contributions to improve lives, engage in constructive dialogue, and find innovative ways for sustainable solutions. For more insight, VOA's Paul Indio joins us live from the Wilton Center here in Washington. Hello, Paul.
Hello, Peter.
So, Paul, can you kindly tell us more about today's event?
A fascinating event here at the Woodrow Wilson Center. You had panelists who range from former refugees themselves, people who coordinate refugee activities, and people who are doing all sorts of things to make sure that when these refugees come to this country, they're integrated into the society and they are able to keep on living their lives.
So, Paul, what do you think is the significance of this event on World Refugee Day?
Very significant indeed. When you think about the staggering numbers of refugees globally, you are looking at nearly 120 million people. These are people who end up fleeing their countries not because they want to flee their countries, but because of external or sometimes internal factors that push them out of their countries. Some are persecuted for maybe having wrong political views. In some cases, war breaks out. You look across the world, you have people from Ukraine who left Ukraine nearly 2 years ago. They're still in refugee camps. Look at Sudan, nearly 7 million people are in refugee camps. You look at the DRC, Somalia, almost every other corner of the world has a crisis going on. Right now in Gaza, people are holed up in refugee camps. So it's a global problem that has to be handled in a global way. So the panelists here were talking about how to figure out a way to forge forward, especially when it comes to how they relate, how they receive, and integrate some of these people who are fleeing away from their homes. You have a lot of Africans. Most of the speakers here were also former African refugees. They shared their stories, how they came here to the United States. One particular speaker talked about how she arrived here at the age of 4 years old with her mother, but she has managed to turn her life around. So she was looking at it from the perspective of another young girl held up in a refugee camp somewhere in Africa or somewhere in Gaza. They look at these and say, what would have happened to them if they had not left those refugee camps and found a home here in the United States? So those were some of the stories that people shared, and the feedback from the audience was equally amazing.
So, Paul, before you go, how does the Refugee and Forced Displacement Initiative look to initiate change for refugees?
It's all about figuring out new innovative ways of working together. You have people who are leaders in this space. We had a speaker who created one of the first refugee resettlement programs here in the United States. He was his testimony was incredibly powerful, how he came to start this organization. And he has since then helped a lot of people from different parts of the world.
Thank you very much, Paul. That was VOA's Paul Indio reporting live from the Wilson Center here in Washington. Mercy Akwot ran away from her parent after they attempted to marry her off to a 56-year-old uncle. They were living in Uganda among refugees from her home country, South Sudan. She now lives in Kenya's Dadaab camp with her 3 children. On this World Refugee Day, Saida Swale tells us the story of Akwot as she spreads messages of hope through her music.
The song is called Sukar, a South Sudanese word for sugar. Mercy Akwot's past has been anything but sweet. She fled South Sudan's civil war with her family, settling in Uganda. At the age of 15, she had to flee again, this time from her own family, which wanted to force her into marriage and from gender-based violence. She later fled again, from Kenya's Kakuma camp to the Dadaab refugee camp.
When I came to Dadaab, life here was really difficult because I had already built a life in Kakuma. I was having a career, and starting afresh was really hard. Settling in was really hard. I faced other challenges.
Never stop, never. Music remained the one thing she could hold on to and use to spread messages. Most refugees in the Dadaab camp are of Somali origin, with a minority from Rwanda, Democratic Republic of Congo, South Sudan and Ethiopia. Although religious and ethnic differences mean many residents do not follow her music, she was undeterred. She now takes media and entrepreneurship classes with FilmAid, a non-profit organization that uses film to educate and entertain displaced people.
I saw that as an opportunity to find a purpose again because I was totally doing nothing. Because I was already working in that field in Kakuma, I wanted now to get hands-on, get to touch the camera, do the edits, shoot a video, brand myself, and then I can now do these things for myself and build the woman I want to be.
Now, Mercy is a mother of 3. She is married to a South Sudanese man who helps her with her music. Her youngest daughter joins her in class because Mercy has no one to live her with. World Refugee Day this year focuses on solidarity with refugees. Akwot says her goal is for her children to have a different life than she had.
A life where they can be a citizen of a country, they can live a normal life like other people, compete for same opportunities as other people, have free movement as other people, not to be tagged as refugees. Because being a refugee comes with a lot of baggage, but still it tells a lot of the painful stories of people. So I want to be the last one in my family to have to tell that kind of story. I want them to enjoy something that I've not enjoyed.
For now, she's focusing on her family and music.
What people say is time heals, but I don't think that time heals. I think we learn to live with the pain. Accept it, it has happened, and move on. Live with the pain. Because there are times it comes back, but we learn to manage it.
She hopes that women and girls around the world can be inspired with her story.
This is my story, yeah, my story.
Saida Swale, VOA, Dadaab, Kenya.
There are over 50,000 refugees at Zaleka camp in Malawi, and most of the people there are facing acute food shortages after the World Food Programme cut its monthly food assistance to the refugees by 50% last year. The situation is forcing some refugees to return home, with over 600 of them, mostly Burundians, voluntarily repatriating since July 2023. However, some refugees are finding ways to sustain themselves. Lamek Masina reports from Central Malawi.
Richard Moses is a Congolese refugee at Malawi's only refugee camp, Zaleka, who is making ends meet through tailoring business he founded in 2019. The shop provides relief from the various challenges he has been facing in the camp since he fled conflict in Eastern Congo in 2010.
You know, when I'm doing this, I'm getting some money. My customers, when they leave me the materials like this, after finish sewing, then they give me that cash. Then I buy food, and the rest I can buy material.
Malawi is currently implementing an encampment policy that does not allow refugees to work or do business outside the camp. Thousands of refugees living outside the camp are being forcibly removed and relocated into the camp. Moses says despite this, he is comfortable with the customers he has within the camp. With the income from the business, he is able to feed his family of 6 children.
I don't have people so outside who can support me. Maybe after sewing the things here, then I send to them. I don't have those people, but only refugees in camp. My customers, those who likes my what I'm doing.
His shop also provides free tailoring lessons to young refugees who aspire to be tailors.
I would like to become a big designer, and I hope I'll be, because I have a good teacher, and I trust so, and I believe so. Everything will be right.
However, Moses says the challenge is lack of enough machines.
If we could have maybe this electronic machine, it could help us too much. And until now, I do have many students, but the machine is still small. As you can see, we have only this. There are 4, but others are not working correctly. So we still need to have maybe more than this one. Yeah.
Challenges aside, he continues to soldier on.
You see, in life, you don't to fed up, to give up, because you can't know when you can get what you need. And to get food, it can't find you where you're staying. You have to struggle.
However, authorities at the refugee-led organization network of Malawi say Moses' initiative can benefit from donor aid should he consider teaming up with other like-minded people.
So that I should see how we are going to reach the rest. With the experience, you can fund or donate to one person leading a big group, and you find that is not well known, don't have even documents. So it's very hard for us to trace that person, because once they take the money, you can't go and claim again.
And Moses says he's ready to jump on the opportunity sooner rather than later.
If I get that chance, I can be happy more than, because that is the chance that I'm looking for. But since now I never get, who can help me, who can support me so that this business can be on top.
For VOA, I am Lamik Masina in Idowa District, Malawi.
Hundreds of demonstrators marched in cities across Kenya on Thursday to protest against plans to raise $2.7 billion in additional taxes to reduce the budget deficit. Protesters say raising taxes will hurt the economy and increase the cost of living for people who are already struggling to make ends meet. Mohammed Yusuf explains from Nairobi.
Kenya's anti-tax protest has spread to other cities and towns across the country, even as the government drops some taxes on bread, motor vehicle and financial transaction services. In Nairobi, hundreds of protesters came out demanding lawmakers reject the 2024 finance bill.
Majority of our girls, they don't even afford the pads, and now it's 50 shillings. How will they afford it if you are 200 bob? Single mothers can't afford it, girls in school can't afford it. As a nation, we're experiencing period shame. He can't tax lads.
There is nothing in that bill. Even the members of parliament don't understand the bill. I'm sure you've seen that. They don't know what's in there. It's drafted by IMF officials, stationed in Finance House. They are given a document to push on our throats. Yesterday, did you see American Democrats sitting in parliament, watching our members of parliament debate their document? They are pushing it down our throats. We can't take it.
What we want this current regime, it is to stop oppressing the members of public. 2 years down the line, and you have not yet done the job that we have elected you to do. You have been representing the president of this nation instead of representing the members of public. We are tired. We don't want this regime to continue oppressing the members of public.
The protest went on for hours and police used water cannons and tear gas to disperse demonstrators who had occupied most of the streets in central Nairobi. The proposed taxes will increase the price of diapers, tires, batteries, smartphones and cameras. The government wants to increase the fuel levy by 9 shillings, which the bill's sponsors say will be used to maintain the damaged roads. The government has also introduced an eco-levy, which it says is necessary to fight plastic pollution and protect the environment. This is the second time Kenyans have come out to demonstrate against Finance Bill 2024, which if passed, Kenyans will be forced to pay more taxes, and this is what they are against. But the government has said this is necessary for them to continue to finance government projects and to repay loans that Kenyans have borrowed over the years. The debate on Finance Bill continues in the Parliament. but the National Assembly is expected to vote on it next week. Kenyans have vowed to continue protesting as the debate and protests rage on until their voices are heard. Mohammed Yusuf, VOA News, Nairobi.
2 years ago this month, the U.S. Supreme Court made a decision that impacted the nation's political landscape, reversing its 1973 ruling that legalized abortion. Now, abortion looms as a major issue in this year's elections. VOA senior Washington correspondent Caroline Presutti takes a look at how the issue is charging the presidential campaign.
June 24th, 2022, the U.S. Supreme Court reverses the ruling that made abortion legal and leaves the issue up to the states. Since then, 21 states have passed laws to limit abortions. At a recent Donald Trump rally,
I'm pro-life, but I think people should have a right if they want it to be early and to be done safely and with exceptions for the birth, of a baby or a mother. But it should be up to the states.
A new Gallup poll shows the Dobbs decision galvanized single-issue voters 2 years ago and continues to do so.
We see a record high now, 32% of the electorate saying they'll only vote for a candidate who shares their views on the issue. But again, that hasn't really changed among Republicans and independents. That stayed absolutely steady at about 22%. It's Democrats who have really surged.
Free condom, free cone?
One of those voters is Jaden D'Onofrio.
We've seen that the right to choice and recreational marijuana are critical to the beliefs and importance of youth voters and what's top of mind for them, especially with the right to choice.
In May, D'Onofrio's state of Florida enacted one of the most restrictive state laws, making abortion illegal after 6 weeks of pregnancy. President Joe Biden called the current patchwork of laws chaos.
It shouldn't matter where in America you live. This isn't about states' rights, it's about women's rights. The person most responsible for taking away this freedom in America is Donald Trump.
President Biden has his own complicated views of abortion relating to his Catholic faith.
You had such an impression on my family.
Last week, he met with the Pope at the Vatican. The church teaches abortion as immoral, but Catholics are divided on the issue.
My view is now that we have abortion where everybody wanted it from a legal standpoint.
Former President Donald Trump takes credit for the Supreme Court decision that outlawed abortion on a national level.
You must follow your heart of this issue, but remember, you must also win elections to restore our culture and, in fact, to save our country, which is currently, and very sadly, a nation in decline.
Saad from Gallup says it will be interesting to see whether the Supreme Court decision will change votes in November or simply motivate people to go out and vote. Caroline Presutti, VOA News.
We are excited to hear what you think about Africa 54 and all our VOA Africa programs on our website at voaafrica.com. Still to come, a Namibian skate park that encourages empowerment along with having fun. We'll be right back.
The time of the year is here again for the world to shine a light on the rights, needs, and dreams of refugees so they can not only survive but thrive. This week on Our Voices, we focus on the resources available for refugees by refugees, especially for women and girls. We will also highlight refugee women who are champions of change inside and outside refugee camps. Join the conversation each week right here on Our Voices.
In other news, French President Emmanuel Macron hosted African leaders Thursday in Paris at the Global Forum for Vaccine Sovereignty and Innovation. The event kicks off a planned $1 billion project to accelerate the rollout of vaccines in Africa. The effort comes after the coronavirus pandemic exposed major inequalities in access to vaccines worldwide. In Namibia, German charity Skate Aid has built a skate park on the National Institute for Special Education campus here. Young leaders with disabilities can practice a sport. Skate Aid says encourages empowerment, socializing, and having fun. Vitalio Angula reports from Windhoek, Namibia.
Backsides, front sides, and kick turns are just some of the tricks 19-year-old Zeka Shikumba has learned over the years. Shikumba, who is partially blind, began skateboarding in 2019, along with other children with disabilities at Namibia's National Institute for Special Education.
I was not born like this. I had cancer before. Cancer is the one that caused my vision. I actually had eye cancer before, and that was in 2010 when it started, when the cancer started.
Shikumba says he relies on light, sound, and shadows to detect the different obstacles in the skate park. He is aware of the risk of falling and hurting himself, but he says this does not deter him. Tangeni Hamukoshi is a coach with Skate Aid, the German charity that built the skate park. He gives lessons and also provides safety gear to the kids at the school.
Skateboarding has a fundamental lesson which teaches everybody, which is you fall, you get back up, and you never give up in whatever it is that you are pursuing.
About 400 learners with various physical and cognitive challenges attend the Namibia Institute for Special Education. Emily Shadei, a life skills teacher, is in charge of sports at the Institute School of the Visually Impaired, which offers not only skateboarding, but other sports like soccer and netball.
There are a lot of learners that are really interested and they are doing well. So that just proves that it doesn't mean that when you are blind, you cannot do anything.
Shikumba dreams of becoming a champion skater someday, and both his coach and life skills teacher believe that with more practice and more opportunities, he and other kids at the school will be able to compete at international games for learners with disabilities. Vitalio Angula, VOA News, Windhoek, Namibia.
And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.